Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. Tonight's discussion is based upon viewer question. I was reading through the comments on some of the videos I've put out, and I came across an interesting question and conversation. So that will be the topic of the evening. Just 2 days ago, from a K. Beatty. Question was, has anyone else's ex-partner here ever said, quote, well, every couple has issues, in order to minimize their abuses? Then, a Brutus Wong responded, yikes. Out of curiosity, what prompted him to say this? Like, what was the context or the nature of the conversation? Kay responded, I would be attempting to have adult conversations with him to resolve our personal problems that kept happening over and over again, and I would confront him on the same abusive crap that kept happening over and over again, and he would gaslight, make stupid excuses, justify, blame shift, change the subject, and more. Then he would point out all the things he did nice for me, which I did appreciate, but it doesn't make lying, cheating, using, stealing, or being irresponsible okay. Then I would get that, well, everyone has issues. Like it's okay to cheat, steal, and abuse because everyone has issues statement. Everyone does, like I drink too much coffee and I think too much, but it doesn't mean just because I have issues it's okay to intentionally go around abusing people. Then the extremely frustrating thing was that he would try to guilt me for bringing it up over and over again because nothing was changing. And I became the nagging, boring person. He just wanted to live his life, and I couldn't take a joke, etc. He expected me to just forget and forgive unacceptable things and just be okay and enjoy my time with him, with things eating away at me, draining my energy. I happen to be very familiar with such situations, and that's why I've chosen to make this video. I haven't necessarily heard the quote, every couple has issues, but it sounds like a typical, as you said, minimization of his abuse. Put it this way. When you first meet this person, typically none of this stuff is there. This person is just the most wonderful person who's so interested in everything about you and wants to know every aspect of your life and does all that great stuff at the idealization phase, including love bombing. But typically what happens is you don't see all the evil crap that's going on until much later. And usually by then you're head over heels thinking that you found the right person. The problem here, though, with this discussion from the creature's viewpoint, typically when a relationship begins, certain rules are discussed, whether they're made explicit or not. One, for example, would be, hey, if we're going to be together, we're going to treat each other respectfully. And that's not what it sounds like this person had done. However, in the beginning, if you would have said, would you ever disrespect me? You know you'd hear, oh, I would never do that. So that will reassure you into thinking you made the right decision. These creatures, cluster B monsters, they know how to trick you into these things. So you'll start off, everything seems perfect, and these things that you're mentioning, I would imagine, probably didn't come up right off the bat. They probably came up after you'd become semi-permanently involved, like maybe shared a real estate together, or moved into a place together, or shared major expenses, where you're basically hooked in. That is when this sickness usually comes out in these types of people. The common sense response would be, if that person's doing that bad stuff, get out. It's not that easy, is it? Typically, they've got you hooked in other ways, not necessarily just financially, but could be certain love bombing events that occurred that stick in your mind that were very sweet, that nobody's ever done for you before. And because you have empathy and you choose to bring up specific situations that are not okay, you'll be gaslighted into thinking that you're ungrateful for all the wonderful things it did, and that's part of the sick game these creatures play. They overdo that in the idealization. They do way more than anyone's probably ever done for you before, and that is like their insurance policy. So the moment you start noticing the evil going on behind the scenes and bring it up, heaven forbid, you'll be reminded, like you said. He'll bring up, well, what about the time I did this for you and I did that for you? That was great, but like you said, doesn't make up for what I would call deal-breaker behaviors. Things that at the beginning were condemned and made clear they would not exist. Yet, once you've gone on for a little while, all of a sudden it's like conversation never happened. And it's a natural response to say, hey, in the beginning I thought we agreed that we were going to be respectful of each other, which means you or I wouldn't be running off with the mistress behind the other's back. That's just understood. And then when you hear the statements of, oh, well, everybody has issues, that comes from the fact that you're still sticking around. They love to keep you thinking there's a chance that they'll change and be right for you, and they know as long as you have that hope, they can keep doing what they're doing, and you'll stick around to take it. And I think on an unconscious level, or maybe conscious, they even think, if she's going to stick around after she found out what I did, then she deserves it. And then to your face, it'll be, oh, you're thinking too much. Oh, everybody has problems. The truth is, these problems are not okay. They're not minimum things like you said, the coffee, I drink too much coffee, or something like that. Those things are fine. The deal breaker things are what you're referring to, and I understand that frustration when you try to sit them down. Lord knows I've done it a million times where when the person's gone, I can think of all the points I want to make, and I'll have to make an outline or take notes because I know how quickly they can take my mind off the subject by making some random statement, and ADHD or whatever it is will make my focus shift, and then I might forget where I was, and then it's over. That's the manipulation tactic they love to use, those reptilian shapeshifter monsters. But yes, the things you mentioned, lying, cheating, using, stealing, and being irresponsible, those are far cry from the image that you were given at the beginning, typically. So it would be a natural response to be concerned. When you're dealing with this type of person, they just want you to treat it like, oh, they drank too much coffee yesterday. Get over it. And this is a form of their control because they've got you. They know that because you're still there, pleading for this or pleading for that, even though they don't want to hear it, or they say they don't want to hear it, they're thinking, it's working. She's still here with me. I've got her. And they form a sick bond with you, or I've heard it discussed as Stockholm Syndrome, especially if they have you isolated from everybody else in your life that was there before for support. The last part you'd mentioned as far as the guilt, that is one more example of their control. It seems this person thinks it should be able to do whatever it wants to do, no matter how hurtful it is to you, even though the things it's doing, it promised in the beginning it would never do. But now all of a sudden you're just supposed to take it and just think, oh, well, everybody has problems, oh, okay. And that is an excuse, a cop-out. That is a scam designed to keep you around for whatever supply he's getting from you and to be able to continue doing what he wants. Because I notice what these people do is they do these things, you catch them doing repeatedly, like you said, over and over. When you're thinking back to the beginning conversations, you're thinking that this person should know that they're out of line, yet you don't see that. You don't see them saying, oh dear, last night I spent the night with that stranger and it really bothered me, I'm going to work on this. You don't hear things like that at all. You will just see more and more such events occurring and hear more and more excuses. You're thinking to yourself, wait a second, we made the rules at the beginning. You said you believed these ways and had these values, and I see the opposite now, and you don't get what you would get from a person who was genuine and said those things. Clearly, you learn eventually that the person just said what it needed to say in order to get to the next step with you. And when you step back and realize this, you have to accept that you are being manipulated, used, taken advantage of, and this person clearly doesn't care that much about you, because if it did, it wouldn't tell you at the beginning how wonderful it was and how it would never do these things and then turn around and do them. Because a person that has a conscience, who has guilt and empathy, they would see your discomfort like they did in the beginning with things not related to them. They would take immediate action to make it all okay. But it seems almost as if once they get you hooked in, they know you're there, then they pull this sick behavior, typically after they've overdone the love bombing, so they can throw that in your face. But it's a sick, twisted, evil game. You were never intended to win it from the start. Despite your good intentions, despite your positive thinking, despite your desire to show this person what's wrong, you think you can word it correctly the next time and then bring it up in a non-threatening way, and guess what happens? Same response. Because a lot of times we think that, oh no, maybe the way I brought it up pushed a button that made this person react that way and become hateful and end the conversation. So I'll try to do it a little bit more gentle. That doesn't help either. It doesn't matter how gentle. As soon as they get what you're referring to, game over as far as any cooperation. And it's such a far cry from the love bombing and the idealization phase, when any concern you had, which of course was external to the creature, it was right there fixing it. But now that you've got an issue with the creature itself, you're on your own. You will be ostracized. You'll be accused of thinking too much. You'll be bullied, basically, into keeping your mouth shut. Like it'll do its good stuff that you like, and then you'll be thinking to yourself, okay, well, this is really good, but this other part I can't get over. Let's talk it out. And these people don't talk things out. They change the subject. They turn it around to you and say, well, you think you're perfect? Yet they're not giving any indication that they realize whatever they did was imperfect and not showing any desire or intention of changing it. And that's something I picked up on after a few of these creatures. When you have these discussions and you get these reactions, you have to accept the fact that what this person is doing is they're telling you that they are not going to change whatever they did. Whatever they did is justified in their head, and you are simply annoying them for bringing it up again. You should just accept it and take their abuse. Well, honey, I'd say, no, you don't need to do that. But it's very difficult to realize this when you're involved in it firsthand, and they know this. They're experts of this stuff. So do yourself a favor. If you find these dead-end conversations over and over and over, it's time to accept the fact the person ain't gonna change anything, and you will become the nag, as you've stated, which is totally abusive and unacceptable. You deserve better.
I am the most beautiful narcopath you'll ever meet.
Oh yes, I know. When I told you when we first started dating I was a virgin, because I found out that you were. I know you were probably shocked when you found out about the thousands of people I'd been with before, during, and after you. Well, honey, that's your own problem. I was trying to be like you, so you'd like me. I couldn't tell you the truth. That's not going to do any good. I had to lie. It's what I'm good at.
I know when we used to live together and I used to vanish for hours on end, and you wondered where I was, and I always told you I was with some church group or in some choir singing.
I made up all kinds of crap. The truth is, I was going to Craigslist. I was picking up dates left and right. It didn't take much, just a close-up of my Virginia. That's all it took. I was so furious because you didn't work out because you were simply too nosy and checked up on me too much. The only reason I did those bad things was because I knew you were going to check up on me. If you wouldn't have checked up on me, I would never have done them, so it's your fault. That doesn't concern you now. The person I'm with now works long hours, and I love to get my Craigslist on. I just found out they got rid of the ads I used. I thought, who is behind this? They're trying to destroy my fun. I rely upon that service for those little afternoon delights, or whatever else I need whenever my current partner's away. They're destroying my livelihood. I'm gonna file a lawsuit. They have no right. Who cares if somebody's child trafficking? I was child trafficked when I was a child. Look how beautiful I came out as a result. Get over it.